You know, at some point, you just gotta be impressed with how long a show can drag out a ship. Like really, the only thing more on and off than Leela and Fry's relationship is the show itself. 24 years, 2 cancellations, and 4 endings, Futurama coming back from the dead is pretty much a given at this point, with one of its longest, most recurring elements being the love story between a boy from the 20th century and the one-eyed beauty who will never let him get away with anything. Fry and Leela's will they won't they romance is iconic, being able to choose between comedic and emotional damage at the drop of a hat. Say what you want about when and where Futurama should have called it quits, but this ship doesn't. So in honor of Futurama coming back for funsies and streaming, let's discuss the highlights of Fry and Leela, what it nailed, what it failed, and why nothing it does will ever top the dog. Truly, that is the best love story in this show. No question, no ass, it's winning every single time. The Fry and Leela are giving it their best shot.
Good afternoon, sir.
So Futurama is a story of Philip J. Fry, your average loser from the century before they invented Minecraft. Fry was just one of those dudes who couldn't find a W with a dictionary. The dude was in his late 20s, single, miserable, and working as a pizza delivery boy. And no disrespect to those in the service industry. I know what y'all can do to my takeout, but Fry is meant to be the average Joe who really doesn't have anything going for him. His family doesn't seem to really care for him, with a light that hasn't evolved since he first dropped out of college. Kid loves goofing off video games, and the only thing more on ice in his social life is him. Yep, the delivery boy from the 20-something century got cryogenically frozen, only being thawed out in the 30th century. A whole 1,000 years later, and everyone he's ever loved and hated is dead, and the dude is psyched. Making things even better is that one of the first faces he meets is Leela's. Now some people forget this, but Leela, before she was icing out Fry, made a living de-thawing everyone else. Working as a cryogenic counselor, her job involved helping people adapt to the new modern life, which involved using a computer to determine what their forever job was gonna be, shipping them for it, and never thinking about them again. Basically a college admissions counselor, but with a little bit more investment. It's here though that Leela has to break the bad news to Fry that his genetically proven destiny is to be a delivery boy.
Yo, killing me with this!
Fry just got sent to the land of tomorrow after thinking his dreams died in the present. He's not gonna take that, so he makes his escape, freezing Leela, but just because he has some decency, decides to reset the time to only 5 minutes rather than 1,000 years. As in spite of everything that's been thrown his way, he's still a sweet guy. He'll get butthurt and be petty, but he's rarely malicious. Unless you're his roommate.
What's that? You wanna come out? No! Stop!
I say.
Fry knocked up his grandma, and yet this is still somehow the nastiest thing he's ever done. But after an extended chase scene where Fry meets his best friend and local man trying to kill himself, Fry has a personal crisis with the idea of just about how everything has changed. And it's during that time that he shares a moment with Leela, where she acknowledges what it feels like to be all alone in the world, revealing how she hit loner bingo by being a one-eyed orphan who was the only member of her species on Earth with no idea of who or what she is. The two relent and come to an understanding, as Fry was willing to let Leela take his dream away, only for Leela to admit she hates her job and quit, joining Fry and Bender as they all go to work for Fry's deranged nephew, who hires them as his delivery crew, meaning after a whole day running from his fate, Fry ends up right back where he started, except this time it was a choice. And it's not the 90s, making it an objective upgrade. Now this premiere sets up everything that you need to know about these dorks moving forward. Leela is tough as nails, takes no shit, and can and will choose violence, and doesn't have parents. Fry is instantly into her, but in spite of being a fish out of water in a world he doesn't understand, his big heart and sincerity have a way of getting people who are trapped in the roles that they hate to reconsider how they want to live. Leela was going to spend the rest of her life rotting on the inside as she hated her job, while Bender was ready to say F it and die the day they met. They were both headed to a dead end, but thanks to the culture clash of meeting Fry, they were able to pick a new trajectory for their lives. The premiere also sets up the soft shipping vibes between the two. Though, funny enough, the writers have admitted that when they started writing this show, they really didn't plan for these two to be endgame. Initially, they were just going to be friends. But a combination of Fry being a horny idiot whose first thought after seeing Leela from behind was wood, and the two of them sharing a tender moment over a shared sense of isolation, the fans took those intimate vibes and ran with them, making it very clear what they wanted, with the show going out of its way to deliver. It wasn't immediate, they both had one-off romantic partners, but Fry getting to hit every woman he's ever worked with, while Leela got to date exclusively assholes. Which sounds bad, but it gets worse. Since she got engaged to most of them, she was really ready to marry the first man who lied to her about being the last of their kind. The orphan bully who became a doctor and gave her plastic surgery so that she'd look more normal, which sounds almost chill, until you realize the man has a normal fetish and is only interested if they don't stand out. Like, this man was ready to adopt a child with Leela, but only if they got to remove the orphan's third ear to make her just like everyone else. The man was a professional conformist and Leela was not gonna take it, as she realized she just needs to love herself for who she is, or discover that she doesn't have to be pressured into continuing the species, especially when the guy claiming it is also a liar. There's other less memorable men on the roster, but Leela's dating profile and the lessons she learns also involve Fry begging on the side, praying that she'll pick him, as these lessons also do a lot to compliment Fry. Fry loves her for her, and no amount of depth perception is going to change that. He's also not a liar, trying to trick her into being his fourth trophy wife, or a narcissist. So truly, Fry could not look better in a field of trash, which is something I feel like you can throw a little bit of side-eye at for the show. Everyone Leela dates is some flavor of terrible. Fry's hookups are either half terrible or just sexy lamps, and then there's Amy. But at least with the toxic ex and the boss with a dating down kink, they were never preying on Fry's insecurities to manipulate him into doing what they want, which pretty much is every dude that Leela hooks up with. The show may not have had a strict timetable about when it was gonna finally hook these two up, but it was never pretending that there was other options on the table. And while I am a famous hater of overly long will they won't they love stories, I think Futurama mostly gets a pass here, just by virtue of the fact that the show is episodic and actually funny. You can enjoy any episode of Futurama while noticing the occasional nod about Fry wanting to hook up with Leela. For the longest time, there's no overarching story about them slowly growing closer, letting you forget that they're even a thing. This is different from some other shows, where they won't shut the fuck up about it. Nobody is winking aggressively at the camera or setting benchmarks for us to be mad at. Futurama as a show lets you accept the fact that this ship was gonna happen when the writers felt like it, or got backed into a corner, with people mostly being cool with that. As throughout the first two seasons, while never hiding how Fry has a thing for Leela, it is more based around lust, but the two of them still remain genuine friends, having tender moments where they can relate to one another on a deeper personal level than the rest of the cast. And some people were just too funny or too weird while others were busy and Bender was doing who knows what. So when the show needed to have a tender moment or just one where they needed someone to confide in, Fry and Leela were the ones who were always going to have that heart-to-heart. With it also always making sense for why they never got past the friends stage, as Fry, for all his charm, was a man-child. So even if he was best boy, Leela was looking for a man, and Fry was just too childish too often to fit the bill. However, as the series kept going, the show started to lean into Fry's romantic feelings for Leela more and more, with the big episode and the unambiguous declaration of Fry's feelings coming in Parasites Lost.
I just can't please Leela no matter what I do. I just want her to like me.
So after humiliating himself and Leela by trying to defend her honor from some truckers, Fry is distraught at the idea that all of his romantic gestures haven't been getting any results, ignoring the fact that the only thing Leela wants from him was to stop embarrassing her. Things take a turn for the weird though when a spoiled sandwich adds an extra brain cell to his empty head, becoming infected with hyper-intelligent worms who decide to settle down and start renovating Fry from the ground up, increasing his intelligence, his coordination, his strength, and healing factor till at long last, Fries were on the menu.
I love you, Leela, and I always have.
Fry, thanks to the worms, is the literal best version of himself. It doesn't seem like he's being mind-controlled or having his personality distorted too much by the parasites. Instead, he's finally able to focus and express his feelings without getting tongue-tied or putting his foot in his own mouth, with Leela deciding, yeah, she'll hit this, sabotaging the rest of the crew's attempts to deworm Fry so that she can keep her upgrade. The two heading back to her place to hook up, Fry busting out his holographic musical instrument and is nailing this date, but before he can seal the deal, he gets a sinking suspicion that Leela might be more in love with his worms than him. as it is a bit nebulous how much of this behavior is a product of his own enhanced mind, or the worms influencing said behavior. I lean towards this being him but better, but the fear is real enough that Fry threatens to kill himself if the worms don't leave. Fry returns to his normal self and then proceeds to fumble his way out of a sure thing, as his attempts to seduce Leela have less than optimal results. And to the show's credit, it doesn't completely have Leela just shut him down and prove his worst fears right, that she was only into him for his parasites, as Fry's attempts at romance end with him being scatterbrained, playing terribly, breaking her stuff, and bringing up the fact that he used to bang her coworker. Like, I'm in this man's corner, but this is the definition of rough. Dude bombed so hard the UN is considering sanctions. This episode, though, begins the running theme of Fry's attempts to win Leela over. Only this time, it's coming more out of a place of self-improvement. He's trying to get better to master the instrument he played for her, improving his general attitude and approach to life, and while nothing happens all at once, you definitely see him mature season by season. He never loses that simple charm, but he is becoming a better guy. With Leela over time also coming to appreciate Fry for his sincerity and perseverance. Though again, Fry shines all the brighter when all her other options are trashed. From here, the show moves into what I like to politely call shenanigans. The series is constantly edging the idea of these two possibly hooking up, even going out of its way to show just how happy they could be if Leela just said yes. With one particular episode where people's perception of time kept leaping forward, but the time in between still happens. We see that Fry won over Leela by writing a love poem out of the stars, causing the two of them to get married, to the shock of their present selves, only for them to be less surprised where they skip straight to the divorce, showing that while it can happen, it doesn't mean it will last. Part of this again is tied to Fry's immaturity. He's able to pull it off if Leela gives him the chance, yet he is still his own worst enemy, as those small annoyances inevitably build up and cause them to break up, which is a mood. So again, Fry is trying to improve himself. The only problem, he's lazy. Dude was willing to make a deal with the devil just to get laid, with it being only pure dumb luck that the robot devil miscalculated his rigged wheel and landed on himself rather than Bender. But Fry got his hands and instantly became a smash hit, trying to write a whole opera to express how much he loves her, running again into the idea of being incapable of expressing herself, with Fry feeling like he needs hacks to be able to tell Leela properly how much he cares about her, only for the devil to hatch a scheme to get his hands back. Tricking Bender into trading his ass for a megaphone to blow out Leela's eardrums, the devil is able to swoop in and trick her into marrying him, playing on the wants and needs of everyone involved just so that the devil can blackmail Fry into switching hands, as if they don't, he'll steal his girl. Also, for those counting home, Leela has been engaged or married at least 7 times, and only 3 of them were to Fry, and though one of them was to his grand something nephew. It's a lot of yikes. Like, at what level does this go from a trope to weird?
Hi, Q-Bert.
Back to Fry making another deal with the devil. Fry gives up his hands to save the love of his life, robbing him of the coordination to pull off the play to near universal hate. However, the lone holdout is Leela, who after everything, after all Fry has done, all that he has sacrificed and seeing how he pushed to express himself for her, Fry may not be playing the right notes, but she gets the message. And this would have been a perfect ending to the ship. Fry's clumsy but endearing attempts to win her over, with Leela recognizing while he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, he's chiseled his way into her heart, and she loves this goof. While Fry's journey was all about self-improvement and doing your best, Leela's was all about self-discovery, about coming to terms with herself and her place in the universe, rejecting the idea that she has to be anything on account of what her species is or that she has to be normal, that she's actually not an alien but a mutant who was raised on Earth with loving parents who just wanted to give her a better life. Leela throughout the series slowly gets over her old assumptions and finds a new way to live and be happy, though the 2-week drug trip does have a way of opening your minds to new possibilities, or that one time where they found out if a coin flip had gone the other way, they'd be happily married. These two were getting better. They were becoming better people, and the universe was basically shouting at them to just fuck already. But the series ended on a positive note that something might happen, and that was enough. And then the show decided to just keep on going. Yeah, this show is really trying to prove that it has more lives than a cat. Being brought back from the dead by Comedy Central, you know, that channel famous today for having its logo on shows you watch somewhere else. But after Fox canceled the show, Comedy Central worked out a deal to make some movies, and then fully taking the show off their uninterested hands. So what was originally going to be the end of the series, Leela watching Fry play his heart out, turned out to be not that, with interesting results. For starters, we have the Lars storyline in Bender's big score. Leela falls in love and nearly marries an older man named Lars, who leaves her at the altar, only to sacrifice himself later with the reveal that he's actually an alternate version of Fry who went back to the past. The man lived some life, then came back after realizing he's the guy who stole his girl, with the current version of himself finally letting go of his ego and trying to hook them up, only for Lars to die saving everybody. With the truth being revealed, Leela kissing him on the cheek, and Fry dating a completely different woman in the next movie.
Huh?
Yeah, this was Colleen. She was poly and didn't tell Fry about it till they moved in together. So naturally that didn't last, just like the interdimensional being trying to date everyone in the universe. Moving on, let's talk about Into the Great Green Yonder. Shit happens. Then at the end, they're hurtling into a wormhole. Fry and Leela finally profess their love for each other, kissing as they face death via the show ending.
We're back, baby.
Then that didn't happen, beginning what I would like to call the writers can't get their stories straight era of shipping. Where previously, Fry and Leela's relationship was always in that early phase of Fry trying to get laid. Now, they have a confession. They've had kisses. Things are suddenly different now, and the vibe did change. But some of the writers in the room didn't get the memo.
Angus, wait. My strictly platonic friend is right.
Rather than just writing them as a couple, the show does this weird thing where they put the two of them on this on-again, off-again hell. I say hell because this show is episodic, so nobody's really stressing continuity or caring over plot points, so long as the dynamic between them stays consistent. But seasons 6 and 5-ish show up and suddenly nobody can decide if these two are a couple or not. We got a love confession. Fry straight up died to save Leela in the premiere, leaving Leela so grief-stricken that she creates a robot version of him, who creates a robot version of her, only for the real Fry to get revived, and telling the real Leela that he's waited 1,000 years so that he can wait a little bit longer for her, which is cute. But this end sets up them having this on-again, off-again couple, where in some episodes they are an item and are ready to do the nasty behind their friend's back. In others, they're basically back to square one, with Fry pining for Leela's affection, with there never really being any inciting incident to help people understand where they're at. Sometimes they're getting one of the best love stories you've ever seen. Other times, Fry's exploiting Leela for views. The math just doesn't add up, so you might as well take the L and stop trying. Instead, focus on the highlights like the late Philip J. Fry. The story of Fry trying to make Leela's birthday dinner, only for him to get trapped in the future on account of a time machine that only moves forward. Where in its own mini-time odyssey, Fry, Bender, and the Professor watch humanity rise, fall, and rise again, all while looking in vain for a time machine that will bring them back home. Meanwhile, Leela is emotionally shaken, believing that Fry stood her up and died, with her throwing herself into her job only to discover a time-displaced birthday card unveiling what really happened, giving her closure and allowing her to forgive Fry after spending a lifetime trying to fill the void he left in her life, with her carving a single message to where they were supposed to have met, confessing how being with him in hindsight were the best years of her life, giving Fry peace, to stop fighting to get back. Instead, lets the universe play out in front of their eyes, fully prepared to accept non-existence as the only path left open to him, only for time to turn out to be a loop, allowing Fry to make his date with Leela again. And all it took was killing another version of himself. This is amazing. It's one of my favorite moments in the series. And then their relationship just resets. So why care? Like again, on and off I get, but in a show like this where we don't have the narrative glue to guide us through where they're at, you can get a perfect episode that strengthens their bond, only for them to not care about each other in the next one. Futurama was mostly able to get away with this cause comedy, but looking back on it, you can tell it was a bit messier than it probably should have been. Though it did give us the gem of Fry and Leela swapping bodies with their uglier co-workers to prove something about the other just being shallow, then giving Zoidberg and Professor Shippers the gift that they probably all wanted to return. But eventually, as the series kept going, the people behind the show were able to settle on where these two are at in their relationship, with Overclockwise showing them officially break up, as Leela feels like their relationship is in a rut. Plus, getting fired made this the perfect opportunity to start afresh. By the end though, they'd read a printout of what could happen in the future, that through it all, while mistakes were made, feelings were hurt, in the end, it would all be worth it. Season 7 moves away from the lukewarm, are we in love or are we wasting your time phase of their relationship, and instead, they just have them be together. And shocker, it works. There's still fights, there's still dumb stuff, but rather than fighting to get together, the problems they're dealing with are just part of being in a relationship. It's a natural development for them after years of just doing this dance for so long. To see them move into something closer to a normal relationship is a massive breath of fresh air. Fry is still a fool, but Leela has come around to find it endearing. Though there are limits, like when he's embarrassing her in public. But around their friends, the show's able to strike that balance of having Fry and Leela be that serious woman and her goofy boyfriend, with any problems that pop up never making it past an episode. such as when a couple's vacation turns into a reunion between Leela and her ex because alien apes are messing with them for shits and giggles. But they talk it through and overcome it, which is great to see and also a very smart move. Since let's be real, if they tried to do a fake out breakup this late into the game, not only would we as an audience not believe it, but rather than being intrigued, we'd tune out as we just know how unserious this is. But I think getting to this point is the greatest triumph of Fry and Leela as a couple. They've been able to achieve that happy equilibrium of being together and the show not ignoring them. I feel like this is a massive problem in long-running media, and that desire to just take a reset button to the story. This issue is especially prominent in comics where, to keep the series at its most marketable, the bigwigs feel a need to keep the story in line with the series' most well-known status quo. Spider-Man was married for 21 years, only for it to be decided that this aged the character too much, and they want him to be the high schooler he was better known in pop culture. So they had to make a deal with the devil to retcon his marriage, all to save a woman who has already died twice. But adding to that was just this false perception that writing characters in a relationship is harder than writing the chase. That will they won't they dynamic where you have the characters around each other, but they don't have to put a ring on that finger or make it official till it's conveniently the end of the series. As for some people, writing a couple is an obligation. They don't want to deal with this shit. But personally, I think part of the problem that comes with couples in media is more of a lack of interest in exploring the ideas of two people actually being together and the new set of problems that brings. Yeah, they can't have the same saucy song and dance that they used to. While it's not as sexy, it's still exciting, as it becomes a question of milestones rather than one big chase towards the finish line. Futurama achieves this brilliantly. It teases the idea of when are Fry and Leela gonna get married? When are they gonna tell their friends? By setting up these little goals, it lets the couple glide into a new status quo, rather than feeling static where there's nothing left to be done with either of them. The fun is still there, but the couple evolved to something that feels right, especially the amount of time and energy that's been placed in getting them there. Which is why the previous finale to the series, meanwhile, worked so well. As on the cusp of asking Leela to marry him, Fry accidentally thinks Leela stood him up, and this was the night he was gonna propose, leading Fry to jump to conclusions and his death.
Hi, Leela! Fry!
But after the time device broken and he was saved, Fry and Leela find themselves in a world where time has been frozen, with all they have being each other. And in that eternity, they make a life for themselves, getting married, traveling the world, growing old together, all before returning to the place it all began. Satisfying send-off to longtime watchers, as this relationship has served as the backbone of the show. As we pretty much all win, they get married, they live their life, and it is all the warm fuzzies, with the ending being the two of them deciding to do it all over again, when the professor shows up and is able to fix the device and reset the timeline, though doing so will cost them their memories. But in spite of that, they face it happily. And I think this is the ultimate reflection of not just them as a couple, but our relationship watching them, going through all these trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, and sometimes feeling like things were just completely reset. But no matter how many times the stories loop back around, I'm always willing to step on for one more ride. As Leela and Fry, Futurama, they are worth it every single time. Okay, one last thing before we go. Some of you may or may not know, but currently the Writers Guild of America has been on strike for over 2 months, with the Screen Actors Guild joining them just recently. And they're striking for the all-important reason that they've all long been screwed over by the studios who refuse to negotiate new contracts with people that make the shows and movies that grace our screens. This isn't just a case of people being greedy or wanting more money. The basic pay and expenses of being in the entertainment industry has not kept up with the cost of living and inflation. Not to mention, with the advent of streaming, shows that would have typically paid people and helped the middle-class workers get by have dried up because streaming pays kind of next to nothing. Hiding by not being on TV, they don't have to pay the same level of residuals. So people are going broke. They are being increasingly disrespected as Hollywood tries to squeeze as much money out of them as possible while making them feel like replaceable cogs in a machine. Something made even more heinous by the advent of AI, where a tool that could have theoretically helped people improve their workflow is now being used as a threat. If the studios get their way and AI stays unregulated, studios would use AI to write full scripts based on vague prompts, then bring in an actual writer as a consultant to actually write the damn thing. They'd be paid significantly less as they would just be an editor, even if what the AI write is kind of nonsense. But they'd be paid significantly less as it would be touching out what the cheap machine already made, not the complete rewrite that it actually is. Not to mention the ghoulish shit they're demanding, where rather than hiring background extras to come back for another shoot, studios are demanding that these background actors sign away the rights to their likeness for forever. So machines and underpaid CGI artists can be used to digitally recreate them, all to avoid having to bring them back and pay them more money. We don't know how long these strikes will last. Executives like Disney's CEO Bob Iger has called writers and actors' requests unrealistic, as he sat at a billionaire's retreat while getting a raise that increased his yearly pay to around $50 fuck the poor million. The tone and complete disregard for the workers has been unsettling, as it is sadly expected. Most of these studios don't care about what they make, they only care about what it will make them and whether or not it will increase their stock price. When in reality, entertainment has never been more important than it is right now. The shows and movies we watch link us all in a community that goes far beyond our screens. It crosses states, borders, and hearts, as we all come together to gush over that thing that we love. And for too long, the people behind the camera have been expected to create with just the love of the job in mind. Most actors and writers are barely getting by, and I think like the rest of the non-1%, they deserve better. Writers and actors deserve everything that they are fighting for, and I stand in support of them. So I just wanted to spread the word and offer all of you a chance to help out as well, by donating to the SAG Foundation or to the Entertainment Community Fund. These are both great charities that work to support all those who put their jobs on hold to strike against corporate greed and to help the next person down the road. Studios were barely paying them as it was, threatening to replace them and even cutting down the trees to deprive them of shade. There's an obvious right and wrong choice here, so please join me in donating, as this was some cartoon villain shit. And enough said.